Good morning to our listeners, our fans, and the people who've just put their headphones on to avoid the boss. Welcome back to the fourth instalment of TLDR. Is it bad that I sort of expect a cheer there?
Feels a bit like we're shouting into the void, doesn't it?
Let's just pretend everyone's cheering while they listen. So our most astute listeners might have noticed that I am joined by yet another mystery voice this episode. This time we have Gareth Davies, who is one of my colleagues on the creative team.
Hi all.
Now, Gareth is actually our sort of editorial specialist, right?
Yeah, I suppose I am.
Can you tell us a bit about what that lofty title that I definitely haven't just made up for you entails?
Well, it means that I write most of the non-campaign material that goes in our bulletins. So I comb news headlines and industry thought leadership to give our readers a bit of variety and keep them in the loop with what's going on in their sector.
So you're pretty equipped to get all deep about content marketing then?
No pressure.
All the pressure, because we are carrying on from our last episode of TLDR, Are You Content With Your Content? To offer a slightly more intensive look at what it takes to make a successful content marketing campaign.
And I think the clearest way to get into it is by breaking the process down into two parts, creation and promotion.
Which do you find harder? To me, creation is more work, obviously. It's more time consuming. But promotion can be pretty soul destroying.
What, if something doesn't go well? Well, I suppose that's definitely the worst part, when you're putting out this piece of content that you've slaved over and no one's interested.
It's genuinely a bit upsetting, and so indicative of the importance of an effective promotion strategy, something I think people tend to forget a bit.
Promotion ends up being an afterthought sometimes, for sure.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's go back to the beginning, BC, before content. I think when a lot of people start writing content, even shorter form stuff, it can be a bit scattergun. But really the key to creating effective content is having a solid process in place. Would you agree?
I'd say so, yeah. It's too easy when you start to get a bit spooked by word counts or the foreignness of a topic, particularly if you're agency-based or freelance, and go into the creative process like you're churning out an essay. Having a clear plan means you know exactly what you want to achieve and what it will take to get there.
Now, we talked briefly in our last episode about the importance of researching your audience, but I'd like to look a bit closer at that. Maybe identify some tactics listeners can use to go about it, because for me it's where the whole process starts.
Definitely. It's the thing that, more than anything else, should be guiding your content creation.
So there are a number of techniques you can implement to research your audience, some more in-depth than others. One of the least intensive options, but one of the most useful, particularly for consumer brands, is social media. People are brutally honest about brands online, and for better or worse, you can use that. So start tracking your mentions, check out who your customers are following, and look at what content they're sharing. This will give you a good idea of what they want from you.
Also, analytics tools or even something like YouGov's Profiler can come in very handy there. Another approach that takes even less time is just talk to your colleagues, the ones who are talking to customers. So call centre staff, sales professionals, frontline people. Are customers enthusiastic about your brand when you contact them? How familiar are they with it?
You can even do a similar sort of thing by going directly to your audience and conducting telephone or even face-to-face interviews to get a better idea of where they're coming from. No getting around the fact that it's more time consuming, but it's probably going to give you the most truthful overview of your audience.
And then, once you've got a pretty good idea of who you're talking to, you get to work out what you're going to talk about.
Always fun.
Not your favourite part?
I do enjoy it. I'm just being a bit cynical. I do think it can be tricky though. Content marketing has been the thing for so long that it can end up feeling like everything's already been said.
Yeah, I get that. When you're facing a really saturated topic.
Something like digital transformation in IT.
Or content marketing.
Awkward.
No, but it's true. If you're hoping to be the first person ever to cover a topic, you're on a fool's errand. So instead, when I'm sourcing content for our bulletins, I'm looking for fresh takes on old topics, or something zeitgeisty, anything that's going to tap into current issues.
Like how we've seen an influx of GDPR news and campaigns recently. They're not reinventing the wheel, but they have identified something many IT and marketing professionals will be struggling with, and they're providing clear-cut advice for tackling it.
It's current and it's problem-solving, two of the most reliable metrics for effective content.
Exactly. I'd say one of the most important habits, actually, to get into when you're creating content is to keep an ideas log.
Could be a spreadsheet or a notebook, or you could go old-school J.K. Rowling and go to town on a napkin. Wherever it's on, future you is going to be so grateful for those ideas that come to you in the shower, or on the tube, or after a few Friday beers.
Future me has never once appreciated my Friday beers thoughts. But if you haven't practiced such forethought, if you're going in cold, where can you look to come up with writing ideas? Is it just a case of keeping your ear to the ground?
For the most part, yeah. I often think that my job gives me an advantage because I'm already so entrenched in industry news. But even a quick look at somewhere like BuzzSumo or business-related subreddits can give you invaluable insight. In a bizarre way, you're never not working. Ideas come from all over.
So we mentioned last time that keeping an eye on competitor libraries can help. And while we are obviously not advocating copying...
Really don't. Google algorithms will muller you.
True, no copying. But brand leaders are there for a reason. And checking out the themes they're following, or looking at what your industry's influencers are sharing, they're good ways to set yourself on the right path.
From there, there's plenty of advice and loads of tools online for content ideation. Brainstorming, the 6 thinking hats technique, even just going for a walk.
The important thing is figuring out what works best for you.
At this point, you're pretty much ready to start writing.
Now, somewhere along the line, you will hopefully have decided what format you'll be adopting for your content.
Like you and Graham mentioned last time, your audience and objective are the main factors here. No product specs for top of the funnel brand awareness activities.
And no Lord of the Rings length white papers for busy CEOs. Just be sensible about the message you're conveying and who you're talking to.
Beyond that, content creation pretty much comes down to 2 things. How far your imagination will take you and how much you're allowed to spend to get there.
Oh, yeah, if you've got the budget to outsource, then you're basically home and dry. So long as you can find a good creative team.
Look for people or organisations who have been in the industry for a while. Professionals with proven track records and a history of working with reputable clients.
Asking to see previous work is standard and can be an important, though not fail-proof, indicator of their abilities.
If, on the other hand, you're not looking to outsource, whether that's down to budget or just a small level of megalomania like Holly here are a few tips to follow to write content that works.
This might sound ridiculously obvious, but start at the beginning. 80% of people who see your content will read the headline. 20% of those will even bother carrying on.
Also, keep your titles short and shareable. You can hate on BuzzFeed all you like, but they're the best at what they do. Clickbait works. Throw in some stats, facts, or a noteworthy insight, and you're onto a winner.
This carries through to the opening of your content. If you've done the hard work of getting people to click through to your stuff, don't serve them up some boring, jargon-laced copy and paste job in the first paragraph.
Ditch the hype. Readers know your objective is to sell them something, and they're fine with that, so long as you're being honest with them. People will only see you as a resource as long as they can trust you.
100%. Help, not hype, is the way to go. And if you're going to give stats or facts, be transparent about your sources. The truth might not always be the most fashionable take on things, but it won't leave you with an empty audience or dissatisfied customers.
Next, provide a call to action.
And don't make it buy our stuff now, please.
No. Your CTA can and should benefit you, but now more than ever, it's essential that you consider your place in the funnel.
If it's somewhere at the top, then perhaps ask them to take a look at the rest of your content. This is a mutually beneficial prompt that installs you as an industry expert without trying to tie the person down to a purchase.
Even if you're right down at the bottom of the funnel, your main priority here is your relationship with your audience. Go straight for the money and they're going to feel manipulated. However, by providing clear, actionable steps for the audience to take, ones that provide small but measurable results, they're more likely to come back to you for your knowledge and ultimately your services.
And last but not least, the step that I think is probably the most important is edit. Edit your work. Proofread it until you are cross-eyed and losing the will to live, and then immediately do it again.
You would be amazed how often you see typos in marketing content.
Yep. Big brands and small, no one is impervious. But editing also helps you to streamline your material. It gives you the opportunity to go back and reassess what works and what doesn't.
Personally, I always find it best to leave it overnight if I can, and come back to it with a fresh eye.
Definitely. Or if you haven't got time, draft in a colleague who's willing to nobly forgo the esprit de corps and selflessly tear apart your hard work. Gareth is a fairly reliable editor.
What can I say? I'm a giver.
So you have content. Congratulations. Now you've got to set it free into the world. We mentioned earlier that nothing kills good content dead quite like a bad promotion strategy.
Or the complete absence of one, which seems to be the case way too often.
The most straightforward place to start is with email.
Which probably sounds completely biased, but research shows that email is still 6 times more likely to get a click than a tweet.
Email's the golden oldie of content promotion, with strong engagement rates even now. But it's not a one-hit wonder.
No, email relies on you, A, having a good relationship with your audience, and B, having a good relationship with email servers.
So be judicious about your sends. Don't just bombard your audience. Use analytics tools to observe engagement and then segment your data accordingly, retouching them once a reasonable amount of time has passed.
A second approach is to get more stuck in. There are plenty of tools and platforms that will give you an in to industry conversations, ranging from LinkedIn groups to a simple hashtag, or even Q&A sites like Quora or sector-specific forums.
Your audience research should have told you where the people are. You just have to go find them.
Next up is the pay-to-play approach.
Now, people can be a bit scathing about paid exposure, like online ads or paid discovery models. Is there any justification to that?
Only if that's the only tactic you're adopting. If you're just throwing all your money at display ads, then that's not smart. But integrate it into a larger promotion strategy, and it can be a valuable way of ensuring you're reaching a larger audience than you might find organically.
Then finally, you're looking at influencer marketing. A lot of people think of this as just sucking up to teenage YouTube stars, but it's much more than that, and crucially, it works.
Definitely. A bit like paid advertising, it automatically gives you access to a larger audience pool, but more importantly, it lets you bask in the limelight of an already established industry idol.
But how can you get on the right side of an influencer?
Well, everyone loves a compliment, so even with a cold email referencing some of their previous activity, be that an article they wrote or an event they hosted, it shows that you've invested in them beyond what they can offer you.
Building those relationships again. TLDR, we are half marketing podcast, half agony aunt. But influencers aren't limited to individuals, are they? It's not just about getting a share from Elon Musk or a shout out from Mark Zuckerberg. You could think about writing for established industry websites or contributing to newsletters.
The main thing is to have a plan of attack. Don't haphazardly start throwing out emails and tweets and chatting up LinkedIn influencers. Have a timeline in place that tells you when you're sending what, the audience you're targeting, and how you'll follow up from there.
So we've covered creation, we've covered promotion. That only leaves us with one thing left to do.
Let's do the TLDR on the TLDR.
I'm liking the enthusiasm.
Okay, here we go. Take a look at what they're looking at. Start at the beginning, finish strong, and edit, edit, edit. Finally, promote properly like a pro.
And I think that wraps us up for this episode. If you missed your chance to download the eMedia Content Marketing Guide last episode, you'll find it in the resources now. Thank you to Gareth for bringing even less beard than Graham, but a bit more content wisdom.
And thanks for having me. I hope everyone's enjoyed part 2 of our content marketing webinar, or, at least managed to get a bit of shut-eye.